Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Shefali Shrivastava, Marketing and Communication Manager at University. Studying abroad is a life-enriching experience that opens doors to global opportunities and successful careers. You may want to upskill when you are a student or a working professional. There is no time limit to that. Today's session centers around short-term programs that give international students the chance to upskill their knowledge and improve their employability. We have an amazing panel with us to add value to this topic. Please allow me to introduce our expert. We have Dhruv Mohan, Manager Recruitment, Southeast Asia and India, York University, Schooling of Continuing Studies. Hi, Dhruv.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. We have Vineet Bajaj, Regional Manager, South Asia and Mauritius, Algonquin College of Applied Arts and Technology. Hi, Vineet. Welcome back.
Hi, Shefali. Hi, Sakshi. It's good to be back on this panel.
Thank you. We have Truman Lysram, International Recruitment Officer, India and South Asian Markets, International Market Development, Brock University. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
And good morning to you over there, right?
I'm based out of India, so not at all a problem.
Okay. And we have our very own Sakshi Chauhan, Senior Manager, Partnership and Growth Alliances, University. Hi, Sakshi.
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
We'll start with the webinar, but before we do that, there is just a basic hygiene for you guys, attendees. If you have any question, kindly ask in the Q&A section and we'll start the poll as well. You can answer these polls and these polls will help us in outlining the next webinar that we're going to plan for you guys. And we'll start with the session in the next a minute or so. We'll do the session till 6:40 or 6:45, and then we'll do the Q&A round. I hope that's okay with everyone. So Canada is the world's most educated country. So I'm not going to waste anyone's time by asking why Canada. I think we have already answered this question multiple times, and Vineet is smiling because he has recently answered this question. So, but I'll request Dhruv to you, just explain what are these upskilling courses?
Sure. As everyone is aware, the world is changing very fast. It's imperative that we are in sync with the changing demands. And if prospective students are looking to be in sync with this changing fast-paced knowledge economy, looking to upskill, change their stream, probably go to the next step, looking for a promotion, then for all of that, I think continuous upskilling is very, very important. And that can happen through these professional short-term programs. We offer them at the School of Continuing Studies, but there are plenty of opportunities around as well. So I think if you're looking to upskill, even if you're a working professional, you want to change your stream, then these programs could be very useful.
Great, thank you, Dhruv. Vineet, would you like to add over here something?
I completely agree to what Dhruv's saying, because all of us have either heard or seen that in our own careers at some point, that you get your break into an organization, you start working with an organization, you're doing well, you're progressing, but there comes a point where your progress sort of stagnates, and it's because of that stagnance in the career where you feel that, okay, is it a skill that I'm lacking? Or you get advised by someone that, yes, you've been loyal to the organization, you've done a lot for the organization and contributed and been instrumental. However, for that next step in your career, that skill is something which, if it gets added in form of a credential to your resume, that's the time when you break the ice for yourself. And I think that's the reason in the current era that we live in, the importance of skill-based programs has taken a very strong spike as compared to the yesteryears, where we were focused on getting as many degrees to our kitty of credentials. But today, in addition to the degrees, of course, they still maintain their importance in hindsight, but having programs or having some particular skill to your resume, which sort of stands you out when you are targeting a particular job or a particular industry, has only seen a great deal of importance in the recent years. So I would say, whether it's a university, we've got York here, we've got Brock here, and we've got Algonquin here. All three are very strong institutions. It's not a college versus a university. It's more like what skill are you trying to attain and which is the best school in Canada that provides that option. And that's the time the choice of refining the institution should actually go for. But the student should have a very clear visibility of what skill are they trying to attain and what industry are they targeting by upskilling themselves.
True. And in fact, I believe COVID has also added to this, to be really honest. I was reading some articles and it was mentioned that before COVID, things were very different. People were not focusing on themselves also in that manner and reskilling themselves and upskilling themselves. But now things have changed. And also, there are these new age courses which are into limelight these days, which adds a lot of value, correct? True, and I'll come to, yeah.
Say that. Yeah, I would completely agree. As when I think Sakshi, at one of our earlier sessions that I had with you, Shefali, sorry, it was my response to this was that this pandemic, of course, it's been looked at in a very negative way. But then, if I talk about the sector of higher ed anywhere in the world, this has given that time to a student body, a parent who's making the investment, which was never really available. It used to happen. I mean, I wouldn't have a statistic, but I wouldn't say that a very large number or a very large percentile of that parent or student was planned for the last 5 years that, okay, after my high school or after my bachelor's, this is what I would want to do. It's got a lot of factors that contribute into it. It's peer pressure, it's the society you live in. In all of that, you don't really pay a lot of importance to some very important factors, which the student has been researching very detailed in the last 2 years whilst they were home or they were not as engaged or as occupied as they usually would be.
True. And I'll come to you. I know Brock University mostly does into long-term courses. So if you can highlight the benefits of the short-term courses, also keeping in mind, because parents believe long-term courses have more value, and we're not denying the fact that long-term courses are more important. Short-term courses does not fulfill that particular gap. But just enlighten us how Brock University is taking care of this in the segment.
I think first I'll like to agree with what Vineet said. You will have to figure out in what field, what domain you want to upskill yourself or maybe learn. That has to be identified up early. I mean, like everybody's figured out in the last couple of years, we were not open to the idea. Nobody sort of figured out that work from home and attend classes online the whole day. We were not open to that idea till this pandemic hit us. So a lot of us who were not tech savvy, we've sort of figured out if we're to survive in today's age and time, we'll have to get irrespective of whether we like it or not, we have to upskill ourselves in if I can use that word. So that way, I think first you've got to figure out what you want to do. For example, at Brock, like you rightly said, we do not have a lot of short-term programs, but we do offer a few. For example, we have in the field of education, student. For those students who are who've already completed their bachelor's of education background, we've got a 1 year, sort of MET sort of program available with us. This is for 2 years. I mean, 1 year each. I mean, there are two of them options available. We also have, say, in the field of wine, wine making and all that. So there are a few options available with us. But us at Brock, if I talk about mostly, it's a long-term program. But if we're not to upskill yourself, doesn't really matter from where you do it, as long as you know what you do, what you want to do it.
Right. Vineet or Dhruv, would you like to add something to this from parents' perspective?
Yeah, so again, the duration of the program, of course, is always highlighted. I think in today's changing time, it's absolutely about the skill sets that you acquire. That's what the employer is more focused on, whether it's a degree, certificate, diploma. To be honest, in today's changing time, it absolutely doesn't matter. Apart from the theoretical skills that were very much in focus historically, I think the soft skills now have equal importance or possibly more importance. And I think it's the skill set that define how you would then break into the industry, or for that matter, if you are upskilling, then the skill sets would define whether you can change that stream or not. So I think the expectations have also changed over a period of time from a prospective employer. And I think it's important for us to be in sync with those changing times. So from our perspective, the duration is important maybe for other reasons. But from an academic perspective, it's more about the skill sets than the time you spend acquiring those skills.
Right. Vineet, you want to add something over here?
I would just say that if we take a hypothetical example, and one of us is a prospective employer in Canada or say anywhere in the world, because I think now it's getting more like a universal fact that if we are a prospective employer and if we have a list of candidature in front of us that we are interviewing, and we see someone who's got great credentials, some big names of some big schools from anywhere in the world, let's say for Canada as an instance, versus we have someone who didn't really have the best of the names, but it was the same thing that actually impressed the previous interviewer as well, who interviewed them in the first round. And now we ask them some technical questions. Okay. Now I've got two people, one who can really tackle the questions well and sort of nails the interview by all the skill that he or she has attained, versus someone who's of course taken degrees after degrees and has some very impressive names, right? Who would I really want to bet on? Someone who's job ready, or someone who I feel would sort of need training, and maybe they're looking to incubate a bit in my office, and then maybe 6 to 8 months later they're on their move because they were just looking for their first break. And that's the world that we're living in today, because it's not only competitive from the side of being a person who's gone for an interview. Even employers don't want to miss out on the real talent from the market that has all the skills. So it's of course, like I said, important to have degrees, but again, you may have degrees, but then you are sort of not able to answer or respond to the most technical questions. Then I think your degree sort of goes on the back burner.
True, it's all about the practical knowledge and the theoretical knowledge, the gap between there.
Absolutely.
And that's what is being bridged during these courses, upskilling courses, or whenever you're working somewhere. Now, Dhruv, we were mentioning about the duration part. So what is the average duration of a short-term course?
Yeah, it depends. So for example, we do certificate programs that are typically 8 to 9 months in duration, delivered over one academic year. And then there are postgrad diplomas too, which could be about 2 years. So it varies. I think one important question, especially from audience in South Asia, is what happens if you do these short-term programs? Are you still able to stay back in Canada? And that's a very common question. The answer to that is absolutely yes. So all the programs, these short-term programs, are eligible for the PGWP and help you stay back in Canada as well. What is also very common among students is to do programs one after the other, which means they can combine two programs, study for about 16 months, which means they can still stay back in Canada for up to 3 years. I think it's a very lucrative proposition. One important factor, again, in South Asia is the cost of these programs. And I can talk about it now or later on, but I think that's an important decision-making factor. So, and again, I don't like comparing, but I can give you a picture where you can assess how these programs are very friendly to your pocket, and at the same time they're focusing on acquiring the right skills.
True. We'd definitely come back to the fee part to it, because of course it plays a major role from a parent's perspective. Truman, I would like to ask you, do you have the similar duration for these education courses that you have?
Yes, almost a year's time. I think that invariably for most of the programs, it could be anywhere from 6 to 1 year, maybe more than that, minimum that in that. But we've got about 1 year's time.
Okay, Vineet, is it the similar duration at your end also, or are there programs which are lesser duration? And
being a college, our shelves a little wider spread. So we've got a 2-year diploma, which is classified as undergraduate. Then we've got a 3 years advanced diploma, still an undergraduate. Then we move on to a 4 years standard bachelor's degree offering. That is all our undergraduate shelf. And then we move to postgraduate. We've got 1 and 2 years grad certificates, which we normally refer to as PGDMs on a global, platform. So a little wider spread, but then, as Dhruv said rightly, that every program, every institution would have its own strength. I think that is again a universal global fact that not every school is strong for every discipline, and not every school would give you a wide range of options for a particular discipline. So it's always the best for a student to keep in mind the end result, the inference that they want to draw into their career out of the program that they're choosing. And of course, once you are short on the program, on the discipline, then of course you go and shortlist your options of schools, whether they're colleges, whether they're universities. You look at your pocket. That's another way to refine. And once you have chosen the short list of schools, you've also shortlisted them on the base of your budget constraint. That's the time when you single out that one institution, because otherwise, I mean, if you start looking at the shelf, if we talk about Canada alone, you can go and Google the number of schools, and you will see a very large number of universities, a very large number of colleges. Wouldn't even go to the division of public versus private. So it is not an easy choice, but colleges, and being a college, we do have a wider shelf of short-term courses. And I think the important facts Dhruv did cover, that even though your program may be having a study spread over a period of 8 months, but the credential that you get awarded is over a 1-year academic period. So if we look at the governing body of IRCC, they would actually look at the credential awarded, that is for 1 year or for 2 years. And if you are targeting towards a longer postgraduate work permit, the PGWP as we normally refer it to as, you can do a 1 year plus a 1 year without any gap, and that would give you the same benefit of what a 2-year program in nutshell would have given you as well, because what they're looking at is the number of years that you've studied in Canada without a gap, and that has different ways to approach towards it.
Right. If you don't mind, kindly add the tuition fee also over here, maybe the difference, and then I'll circle back to Dhruv about the same.
So tuition fees, I think we all know it, because we all have to see what other schools are offering. So if I was to compare versus a university, of course, there is going to be a difference. I can't call it significant, because it may be significant for someone, but for someone it may not be. They've got a different approach towards things. But at Algonquin, we're looking at about a range or a ballpark of 17 to about 20,000 Canadian dollars per year. And this is across the board, whether you're coming for an undergraduate diploma or you're coming for a postgraduate. So you're looking at a range of 17 to 20,000 Canadian dollars. Of course, with the comparisons of a respective country where you're hailing from will apply versus the Canadian dollar, but 17 to 20,000 dollars per year.
Dhruv, is it a similar number?
Yeah, luckily for me, I can compare it within the university. So as I mentioned before, at the School of Continuing Studies, we are offering postgrad certificate programs that range from $15,000 to $20,000 per annum, or the duration of the program. And then again, I hate to compare, but like if I was comparing it to a 1-year degree that we run through Schulich being the #1 business school in Canada as per Forbes, a Masters of Marketing program is $80,000 for the same duration. So, there is a substantial difference there. You are at the same university, same campus, but of course, there are several factors that, contribute to that difference in the fee structure. Again, I will circle back to the same thing. It's absolutely the skill sets that you're acquiring. But at the School of Continuing Studies, they are coming at a nominal price too.
True. Truman, I'll ask you again, a comparison between a long-term course and a short-term course tuition fee.
Since we do not offer a lot of short-term programs, which has got about 2-3 programs, tuition fees for a year is almost the same like most other programs that we offer. Full-time program, it will cost you anywhere about 28 to about 30,000 CAD a year. That's higher comparatively.
Okay. So actually, while we're talking about the fees and tuition fee costs, what is the cost of living in Canada, being an accommodation partner, university living? You guys deal into a lot of conversation with students, but not just accommodation. There are multiple other parameters and other factors of, expenses as well. So if you can just enlighten us around the cost of living over there.
So yes, Shefali, cost of living actually depends on different factors like accommodation, your food, transportation, internet, and then your miscellaneous expenses overall. So accommodation ranges from somewhere around to 600 to 900 Canadian dollars. Food will again go from 200 to 300 Canadian dollars. Transportation from 100 to 250 Canadian dollars. Then internet is going to be there, and then again your miscellaneous expenses. So overall, it will come out to be 1,800 to 2,000 Canadian dollars. But it depends from person to person and where they are choosing to live, how far they are living from the university, how much they are spending on the food, if they're cooking or if they're eating out. So all of it, adds up. So on an average, 1,800 to 2,000 Canadian dollars. Yeah.
Of course, it does make sense. Like, of course, there are short-term courses, the fees less, you get more credentials. The credentials are for a year only, but you're having party every day, and then it's going to be the equal cost, I'd say.
Yeah.
Right, right. So who's ever going for upskilling courses, don't party a lot. Party, but
No, I just like to add here. I think
Yeah.
it all depends on the kind of lifestyle you lead. I mean, what Shakshi has just said
Yeah.
is very basic. If you lead a normal life, that should be enough. But it all depends on the kind of lifestyle you choose. I mean, if you want to have a normal life, then I think what Shakshi has covered is absolutely right.
But Canada is very lucrative, whenever you click on Canada on Google and something, you see so many beautiful places, beautiful restaurants and all that. So we have heard a lot of stories around the same. So that's why. Okay, so major reason of doing all these upskilling courses, the ultimate, whatever course they are pursuing, long-term or short-term, the ultimate goal is to have a better career, better employability. How does these courses, help students with their career placement, and does your university and college also help the students in a similar manner? Vineet, I'll start with you.
So I think we've really touched on the importance of skill quite in detail so far in the session. And I would simply say that at Algonquin, the approach that we have is that every couple of years, say about 3 to 5 years, the programs undergo a sort of overhaul wherein the curriculum is changed to a level where the industry experts would come and share what are they looking for in recent graduates. That way, the employability automatically would go up. So, I'm not sure if a lot of schools talk about it, but at Algonquin, we've not only got a very high 94% of graduation rate, but we've also got 80+% employability rate on full-time basis within the first 6 months of graduating. And employability is important, but what you're actually aiming at to really go to the right point as a target is that you want to be not employable only. You want to be employable in the industry for which you've actually spent all this money and the program that you studied in. It's like I don't want to be doing a mechanical engineering program and then probably being a barista at a Starbucks. So that's why from that purview, Algonquin has a very high rate. That is because the industry leaders and experts are included in program modifications every now and then. For that, we don't out of the way go and help a student, but again, this in turn does help the student as well. In terms of employability, in addition to this, we of course don't have a concept of campus placements, which I don't think is very popular in Canada otherwise as well. It is quite a factor that relies to a very good extent on the location. Now, Ottawa is the location where Algonquin College is based, and the first thing you talk about Ottawa, well, yes, it's the Canadian capital, absolutely true. But in addition to that, it is also the IT capital of Canada. The place that I would refer to in the Indian context it's the Bangalore of Canada. So if you are from any industry, doesn't matter, because yes, someone may get under an impression that, oh, well, it's an IT capital. I am a marketing guy. What kind of employment will I get there? Let's not forget today the role that IT plays in our lives. We wake up, with our bed tea, we look at our Facebook, we look at our LinkedIn's, and we do that quick early morning shopping on Amazon as well, right? So IT is circling into every industry. What that means in turn is that it's going to employ marketing graduates, HR graduates, accounting and finance graduates, business admin graduates, and the only ones that I wouldn't touch on is health graduates. But I think health, talk about nurses, talk about dentists, talk about optometrists, they are in demand anywhere in the world. So they definitely get placed if they have the right attributes when they go job hunting. But otherwise, Algonquin does, of course, not help you in form of campus placements, but does certain inputs into the making of you as an Algonquin graduate, which eventually automatically start kicking in by the time you're a graduate. And when you go job hunting, they do help you in a very silent form. And the resultant of that, like I said, is over 80% of employability within first 6 months. So that's what we do, that we focus on upskilling and keeping ourselves so up to date with the curriculum and the modules that we teach, that by the time a student graduates, if he or she is really paid attention and focused, I don't think they should have getting employment. They shouldn't have any issues.
True. It's a parallel road, I'll say.
Yes.
When I come to you, also inform students what kind of career programs you have at Brock for a long-term student as well.
We offer more than 70 programs at the undergraduate level, over 40 programs at the postgraduate level. You think of a stream, we probably have it. The only programs that are not available at this point of time at Brock is the engineering programs that we have. We do not have engineering faculty as yet. We are working towards it. Hopefully by the fall 2023, we'll have the engineering faculty up and running. But then, you talk about engineering programs, non-engineering programs, say computer science or say health or business programs, psychology, all of them are available with Brock. And good thing about Brock is, we talk about the upskilling and the work experience and all that. A student learning at, in Canada. We also get a lot of programs which has, components of experiential learning as a part of the program. We've got co-op over all the 70 odd programs that we've got at the undergraduate level, 40 plus programs of co-op, which I'm sure, Vineet and Drew's colleges and universities will also have. Most of the programs in Canada, I would say, will have some sort of practical experience as a part of the, part of the course curriculum, if not, like a co-op dedicated one. Yeah, but we'll definitely have some sort of components. And in terms of the placements, I think all the universities and the colleges in Canada, they know that, all the students whoever is looking at studying at a certain institute, they want to know the return on investment, if I can use that word. If they are going there to study a particular program, they also want to know that I'll get a job, I'll get a secure job in the field of the study, in my field, whatever field that they're studying. So, and I think all the universities here also takes a lot of pride in the fact that, they want to get all of the students in a place as possible. They're responsible. And if one of the student goes unplaced or something, then they sort of take it as a challenge and they would want to get the place in some way or other. Yeah.
Right. And as you mentioned, ROI, return on investment, is something like Vineet mentioned. IT is also creeping in. Say technology is creeping into our lives. ROI is also behind every decision that we make. I'm sure nowadays people are not taking any random call on any any decision. They are just calculating what is the ROI on this whole thing. Dhruv, I'll come to you about the similar question, that how the career placements are over there at York. And also I'd like to add one question to it. What are the best demanded short-term courses over there? Maybe from postgraduate side, you can tell.
So I'll add on to a few things that Vineet mentioned earlier, but just to highlight the fact that most of our programs are designed and delivered by industry professionals, which means they are very much in sync with the industry demands. In terms of opportunities, because we cater to mature students, it's not always about a co-op, it's also about what are the sort of opportunities you can present. So for example, a couple of our programs provide them with networking opportunities. The HR program helps you engage with the HRPA, which is the Human Resource Professional Association. or we run a program called the 10,000 Coffees, which is in collaboration with one of the biggest banks here, the RBC, which again gives an opportunity to students to connect with industry professionals in an informal way too. So there are multiple ways in which you can provide that exposure to incoming students, not always necessarily through a co-op opportunity. But having said that, some of our programs have an optional internship inbuilt into the program as well. In terms of industry demand and the changing demand, so for example, we run a program in digital and content marketing. Again, adding on to what Vineet was saying, marketing is not what it used to be. It's moved away from the traditional sense. It's very much digital. 164% growth in digital marketing jobs in the Greater Toronto area as we speak. So being a university based in Toronto, of course, then the opportunities are correlational to the area that you are in, and that's an added advantage for incoming students. Also, in terms of other areas, for example, cybersecurity, it takes 21% longer for employment to fill up in the cybersecurity domain compared to traditional IT jobs because there's a dearth of professionals in that space. 19% growth in that space in the Greater Toronto area. Average salary is about $70,000 for a cybersecurity analyst. So these are the changing trends that we see. And as I mentioned before, the programs are very much in sync with the industry demands and changing demands. IT is not what it used to be. Your traditional networking, it's moved farther away. We do a program in blockchain. If the whole world is talking about cryptocurrency, if that is where your interest lies, then you can absolutely upskill yourself in that space. So it's much more. I think it's about understanding what the skill sets are required, and it's become. It's not broader anymore. If you want to learn business and you want to analyze data, then business analytics. It's not about a generic business degree anymore. I think that's very important for the students to understand as well.
True. Vineet, you want to add something to this?
No, I think we've got a very common understanding of what the industry is, but just one sort of addition, or should I say, I second the statement here that the return on investment is more important than ever before to a parent today, and the reason for that is I think we all would have a common understanding that during the pandemic there has been a significant change in the paying and affordability capacity of people from around the world. Something that may have been affordable to a parent back in 2019, suddenly the world changed for them from north to south in March of 2020, and things were only going downhill. So today, their class, as we say, they're probably from upper class or a niche of the society. They're probably sitting in the middle class, and the affordability has changed. I mean, clearly, if I have an option to make sure that I send my child abroad to study and fork out those extra, savings, or do I make sure that I maintain a healthy lifestyle first? It is not the easiest of the choice, because clearly there could be a parent who's still in the capacity that, let's say a country has a norm, like Canada for colleges has a norm of paying 1 year fees in full under the study direct stream. Now the SDS rule, as we call it. I get parents who say that, okay, well, you're asking for 1 year fees, that's fine. Can we just pay 2 years and get it done with? And then you get another category of parents who would say that, okay, we've got about 60% saved with us, but we'll be borrowing about a 40% from a bank in form of an education loan. And then you also have this third category who do not have anything at all. I mean, they've got very limited means, but they still want to be fulfilling the aspiration of their child, or probably a collaborative aspiration of the entire family, parents and the child together, and they want to be borrowing the entire sum of money. Now, whenever the thought of coming and borrowing money comes in, I think the first thing that comes to your mind is how soon will I be able to pay back? At the end of the day, for a good cause, but it is a debt, right? And no one would like to be trapped in that circle where every now and then you keep remembering that, okay, well, I owe a bank this much money, even though it's for fulfilling the aspiration of my child. So return on investment has taken a much more importance in the factors that were usually coming to parents' minds. And now this question does come more often than it used to be earlier. And employability, expenses, these are the factors that have taken a very strong and serious role in where the child is headed to.
True. Now we have discussed that how much cost difference is there, what is the duration of the whole tenure of the term. Now the most important part that we discussed earlier also, the gap between theory and practical. Truman, I'll start with you. Okay, I think there's some internet. Is there an internet issue?
Yeah, there's some internet issue. Go ahead, sorry.
So are you okay to answer, or shall I go?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So I would like you to understand. I would like to understand what is the study model around the short-term courses over there. How the theory and practical are balanced out.
I think from my understanding is it's mostly theoretical than not much as practical. I mean, it's a lot practical than theoretical. I mean, I am not sure about the exact component because I do not have a lot of programs, to be very honest. I don't have a lot of expertise, but I think my colleague Vinith and Dhruv can probably throw more light there.
Yeah, Dhruv, we'll start. You can add on to this. Why I'm asking this question, because you mentioned that the credentials are of a year, but the duration is only 8 months. So how are we matching up? How are we filling that gap of tenure?
Yeah. So as I stated before, when the programs are designed and delivered by industry practitioners, that's what they bring to the table. They bring their knowledge, they bring what is in demand, and then they try to use those skills in that classroom, right? The assignments are very industry focused. The projects that are given are very industry focused, which means we are very much aligning what the industry demands are in terms of the curriculum that is being delivered, right? So I think that's very, very important for us to highlight the fact that, yes, you're acquiring the theoretical knowledge, but in a framework where you're acquiring the skills as desired by a prospective employer. I think that is where the difference lies. Also, as I mentioned, in some of our programs, we give you that option for an internship, which means, again, you're either working on a live project or in some cases, we give you exposure to an incubation center within the university. So all those elements then add on to the practical knowledge that you are acquiring while you are also studying the theory side of it.
Right. Vinith, would you like to add something to this?
I think on a very similar sort of notion, Algonquin has a very deep focus onto practical learning. Whilst a student is attending class, whether it's a lecture, it's a tutorial. Yes, theoretical knowledge cannot be ever put on the back burner, but I think theoretical knowledge takes an all new level when it is also complemented with the right skill. I'll give you an example of a program at Algonquin College that is practical nursing. Now, I don't think we can make a good nurse without actually giving them an understanding in a real-time lab where things are actually assimilated as to how it's done. Now at Algonquin, of course, co-op is a very common concept everywhere in Canada. So is it at Algonquin College as well. But here we've got a concept in the program of practical nursing where a student has to complete a prerequisite program, which is called ICHS. It stands for Introduction to Canadian Health Studies, which they do before they actually start the practical nursing program. Why? Because let's not forget that human body is same world over. However, laws are very different in every country. What you may go and procure at a counter at a pharmacy in India may not be something you can buy without a doctor's prescription in Canada. So, a dosage of a particular drug that you can be indenting at a hospital in India may not be the same in Canada. So all of this is actually given to them in terms of a holistic approach that, okay, now you're in Canada, this is where you're going to be becoming a nurse, and probably this is where you plan to establish yourself in a career in the same field as well. So that's given to them, and that's after, it's subsequent to that 4 months program. It's a rigorous 4 months program. You're not even allowed to work in those 4 months. Why? Because there is not even the part-time 20 hours, clearly because it's more like a tuning that you're being given to the country where you plan to now study or probably have a career in future as well. That's how serious we are. And then followed by the theoretical knowledge. Along with that, simultaneously, you get proper practical guidance as well. And so is the case of any engineering you talk about, whether it's electromechanical and robotics, whether it's electrical, there is absolutely a whopping amount of funding that goes into this being a public college. And again, what we make ready for an employer is that tomorrow when he is about to interview an Algonquin graduate, even if he asks a technical question in an interview, there is a very high likely chance that the student would go as far as assimilating to an interviewer what and how it would be done, because he's probably practiced. There is a very high chance that not maybe exactly what has been introduced or launched today, but he is using and he's very used to being trained on the same plant and machinery at Algonquin College, which the employer where he's sitting for an interview is also using in that company. So that sort of works very well and puts the employer or a prospective employer in a very confident spot about an Algonquin graduate. So that's what we do. But again, in all of this, I would have to again stress about the fact that this does not put the theoretical knowledge on the back burner, because of course, practicality and theoretical goes hand in hand. It's a joint effort of making an individual into a professional. And yes, for some genres, for some fields, practical training is more important, but it can never be completely wiped out from a curriculum.
Of course, we cannot nullify the importance of theoretical knowledge, because practical came from theory itself somehow or the. Of course, the Pythagoras theorem is not applicable. I'm sure it might be applicable at some point, but not into our daily upskilling courses. So, Dhruvan, I'll come to you. It's very important to understand. We are talking about upskilling courses, but this doesn't nullify the importance or doesn't replace the long-term diploma or bachelor programs. If you can share your thoughts on the same.
Shefali, can you just repeat your question again? I've got some internet issues here.
Sure. So the upskilling courses, the short-term courses, doesn't fulfill the requirement of a long-term course. They don't replace them.
Of course.
So your thoughts on these?
I think if you put it in perspective, you really can't build a multi-story house without laying the foundation right. So that is the key. I mean, what I would say is you have a problem. You got the proper degree first, and then you can always look for a degree to upskill yourself. I mean, if I can use that word. I mean, to put it in perspective, if that helps, according to the study that we have at Brock, 40% graduates tend to earn more if they have a proper undergraduate degree than a diploma itself. So if you have a proper degree and then you add an upskilling degree to your existing degree, I think it would make a lot more sense than just going for an upskilling degree just like that. I mean, if I can use that word. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Dhruvan. We need the next question is for you guys.
Just to add in the context, so the 4 P's of marketing will never change, right? But when you talk about digital marketing, you're talking about search engine optimization, you're talking about using Google Analytics. So you're adding on to that foundation. So the 4 P's will always be there. It's just that you are utilizing the new tools to stay in sync with the changing demand and how the industry works.
Yeah. So my next question was around this only. So when is the right time to pursue these courses? Like after high school, bachelor's or master's degree? It's open to both, Dhruv and Vineet.
Dhruv, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll talk from a postgrad perspective, and maybe Vineet, then you can cover from the undergrad perspective as well. So as I mentioned before, with continuing education, it is open to all. So you could be a fresh graduate or even have a master's degree. But if you're looking to upskill, then these are good options to look at. You could be a working professional wanting to change your stream or looking for promotion. These are ideal for that audience too. So, if you ask what's an ideal audience, there is none, because in today's changing time, you constantly need to add to your skill sets. So whether you have a master's degree, whether you are a working professional, I think what is imperative is, and what is, so for that matter, what is constant is change. And I think you need to be aligned with the thought that things are changing very quickly around us. So what was relevant 5 years ago is probably not going to be relevant 5 years down the line. So I think that's very important for any prospective student to understand.
True. Vinny?
I think I would build more on the point that Dhruv just mentioned, that what is constant is the change. Change, the moment we talk about change, normally it's the word variable that comes to our mind. But the era that we live in is where change is actually become fixed, that it is always going to be there, whether you look at it from the perspective of an employer or from the perspective of an employee. Because why would an employer look for a change? Clearly because they want to be competitive in the market and they want to be producing the best to their customer base with the help of their employees. And why would an employee look for a change? Clearly because I'm sure at some stage we all have, or we will go to a point in our life where we sort of feel that, okay, well, we don't have a problem with what we're doing right now. But again, we would also want to have the taste of what else is available in our industry or in a closely related field. And that's the time we feel the need to upskill ourselves. I think I said this right in the beginning, that we all have had that point where we're doing well in our careers. We had fortunately got a good break as well, but there comes a point where we feel a little stagnant. And that's the time there is a need for doing a upskillment in our entire profile, because it's now not recent, but it's been for a very long time. And I think this is the case now more sort of globally. Earlier it used to be more prevalent in South Asia, that you've been you've become an engineer from a renowned institution like a IIT. If I talk about from the Indian context, post your engineering from IIT, you are now wanting to do an MBA. So now MBA is generally Masters of Business Administration. The first thing you think about is more of a business or a commerce background student. But here we are talking about an engineer who's excelled in that particular domain of engineering, maybe an electrical or a computer engineer, now wants to do an MBA. Why? Because yes, he's a great engineer, but today when he wants to target those positions in his company where he'll be more of a people leader, he doesn't have that management quotient in his resume. And that's the time when we feel the need of masters in business administration in a particular field, because he's then going to become a master to other people. So that's the need, for the constant need for upskilling ourselves if we want to be growing in our careers. There could of course be a good gentry as well that is content in what they're doing. They're happy. They're not looking for any upliftment, or they are happy to go like this for the rest of the time. But there is an increasing number of people who keep a watch on what more is available for them in the market and which direction could they now swim in their career. And there comes the need for absolutely knowing what's the new thing that's in demand in the market, and you've got to go and get that skill, and only then would you be sitting in that job interview.
True, learning never stops. That's we can say. Attendees, you can ask a question in Q&A. It's already 6:50. We'll start addressing the questions. Sakshi, I'll come to you. As we were talking about adding value, there is a line at university living that we keep on saying that we go beyond accommodation. So what's there more at university living than accommodation?
Certainly, Shefali. So university living has contributed vastly to the lives of international students over the past many years now. We offer state-of-art student accommodation in close proximity to the universities in over 93 countries and beyond. We also offer a number of value-added services that fulfill various university needs, including airport transfers, international SIM cards, guarantor services, and the list goes on. We have, in fact, recently added a new job search portal as well to our services so that students can look for part-time jobs when they are studying and full-time jobs when they finish their courses. And definitely, apart from the value-added services like I just mentioned about, we have a thriving student community as well, where we offer students a chance to become student ambassadors and interns with us. That includes them sharing their experiences with students on their student life in that particular country that helps other students as well who are aspiring to go to that particular region.
True, and actually the topic of this webinar came from that community itself. So great. Now there is an important question which, okay, so people have also started asking question. Thank you guys. There's an important question. I know Algonquin does not do scholarships, but Dhruv and Truman, you guys can help. What kind of financial aid or scholarships are available for these kind of courses, your universities?
Should I go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Dhruv. So we've got a number of scholarships. Shefali, we've got something called Brock Scholars Award that comes for anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000. There's no separate application required. You just have to file an application based on the academic documents and everything as required. We can give you that scholarship in the range of 1,000 to 4,000. Then we also have something called an international education fund that can go up to 4,000 Canadian dollars. That again, you just have to punch in your application at Brock and you need to fill in a separate application form. So these are a couple of scholarships available that the student can definitely look at.
Yeah. Okay, Dhruv?
So from a university perspective, York does offer scholarships for undergrad students. The merit-based scholarships, some also are based on your application. If you're able to secure an offer, those are faculty-based scholarships, but then others are correlational to your academic credentials, of course, very competitive. So 100% scholarships are available for undergrad degree students. At the School of Continuing Studies, unfortunately, we don't have scholarships because I highlighted the fact that our programs are very lucrative for incoming students. The tuition fee is very cost effective. So I think that's a major factor in terms of us not offering scholarships to incoming students at the School of Continuing Studies.
Okay, so we have started getting questions. Sakshi, I believe the first question is for you. Will I get an accommodation for just few months if I'm pursuing a short-term course?
Yes, I can see that Pavan Kumar is asking this question. So very good question. We keep getting this question day in and day out because most of these student accommodations across the globe, they prefer long-term lease. However, at university living, we do have short-term to medium-term contracts ranging from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months to 12 months as well. These are all the contracts that we have. So depending on which course you're going for, which university you're opting for, you need to contact our team well in advance so we can look out for accommodation.
Great, thank you. Gitasha has another question. Which industries requires upskilling courses? I believe every industry, but still.
Which industry doesn't?
Still, if you want to narrow it down to a couple of industries which are advancing very quickly, like IT, marketing, you guys mentioned. Maybe Dhruv, you want to add something?
Everything, to Vineet's point, if you're an engineer, you want project management skills, 100% you need upskilling. If you are a BCom graduate, you want to understand marketing, digital marketing. If you have done BTech, it's not just about software engineering, blockchain, AI, cybersecurity. That's how the world is changing. So healthcare uses data more than anyone realizes. You can combine economics with healthcare. The whole trend is changing. So because it's about return on investment, you want to know if you are a hospital, how many beds would you have at disposal? That do you have a repeat customer? And all that is only possible if you analyze that data. So, you need to be in sync with what the changing demands are. It's not just any one industry. Across sectors, you need to look at upskilling.
Great, thank you. Anjali has a very good question. In fact, I was about to ask, but because we were running out of time, I skipped that. So are there any entrance exams, specific exams for these short-term courses? We need, you can enlighten us on this.
No, just the usual criteria to come to Canada. That is, it may be a little different for the unis here, but at Algonquin, we would just ask for an academic, certain benchmark that we have, which is different for different programs, academic and English proficiency, which is commonly tested through a TOEFL or an IELTS or a Pearson test of English. And that's all we're looking for, but no special entrance tests, at least for Algonquin, that I know of. No.
Great, Dhruv.
Yeah, so one other key highlight for us at the School of Continuing Studies, we also accept a 3-year undergrad degree, as most of the universities for a postgrad degree program require a 4-year undergrad degree, along with a GRE GMAT score if you're looking at good schools. For us, that's not a requirement. So maybe something for the students to consider as they look towards postgrad programs.
True. Truman, would you like to add something over here?
Yeah, I mean, even for us, there are no specific requirements, but for the programs which is in the field of say the education, like the diploma that we offer in education, preferably the student should be from a bachelor's of education background. That should be, there are no additional exams, nothing.
Great. Pawan has a question that do these short-term courses happen in the same intake as the long-term courses, or there is a different schedule for this? Anyone can take
I can answer that from a college perspective. So, and unis don't actually have 3 intakes in here. Most of them have 2. Some of them even have just September alone. But at Algonquin, we run 3 intakes per year. That is January, which is often referred to as winter. Then we've got May, which is often referred to as spring. And then we've got September, which is often referred to as fall in the Canadian context. Yes, you would find the maximum offerings in a Jan or a September. May is usually an optional intake. So less offerings in May. You would have the, should I say, full serviceable shelf available to you for September and January. So if you're looking at a college, if you're looking at targeting a diploma or an advanced diploma, then these are the 2 intakes that you should target.
Okay. Dhruv?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we are slightly different. We offer 3 intakes in a university environment at the School of Continuing Studies. And to Vineet's point, that is not always the case. Majority of the universities only offer predominantly a fall or then maybe a winter intake. But for us, we are offering 3 intakes, Jan, May, and September. So rolling intakes, doesn't matter which intake you start with us. We have 3 offerings in a year at the School of Continuing Studies, which is again not very common in a university setup.
Truman, is it the same at Brock, or you guys also
No,
offer 3 intakes?
we also offer 3 intakes. The only challenge is September is the largest, the fall intake is the largest. Jan and May, it's small, the number of programs are limited, but we've got 3 intakes.
Great. Now we'll take the last question, guys. If you have any further question, you can reach out to us on our social media channel or support@universityliving.com. We'll be happy to answer it. The last question we'll address is that, do these courses have value on a global level? Vineet, Dhruv, Truman.
I would say that, over here, we're talking about the Canadian education system as a whole. And I think it is a very well-regarded system globally. And the indicator to that is that more than any other country, Canada has always been very choosy about the student body in terms of how much time. I mean, Canada's gone that minuscule that how much time has it taken a student to cover their prior education in their country? Was it done in a stipulated period of time or not? And The testament to that is the term that we often use in our Canadian context, and that is, how long have you got a gap off from your last qualification? Gap is so important. So this is all done in order to deliver a really groomed and skilled graduate at the end of the day. And I think this is universal across Canada. And that's why I have a very strong understanding that the education or an alumni of a Canadian system is well accepted world over.
Great. Dhruv, you wanted to add something to this?
Yeah, I think 100% the skill sets that you acquire, you can use in the global context. The world is shrinking with each passing day. Your competition doesn't just come from within the country, it's from across the globe. And then the skill sets are relevant across the globe too. I think 100%, as we've been speaking, there is a lot of focus on practical side of learning, which helps you acquire those skill sets. Both me and Vineet have taken international education and can vouch for it, that our skill sets are relevant irrespective of where we go. I did my postgrad program in Australia. I think Vineet was in Australia too. I'm in a different part of the world today. So from a personal experience, 100%, those skill sets are transferable and very much applicable irrespective of where you are in the world.
I think, Dhruv, we both, to your point, to end the session on a very humorous note, I think somewhere in Australia, we both must be talked about. Why? Because we've imparted from one country and we're giving it to the other one.
Exactly, 100%.
That's going to be true, actually. So now we're almost done. If you guys want to share any last few points of wisdom, Truman, we'll start with you.
I think my only advice perhaps would be that you will have to understand what is the thing that you want to study. You have to be very sure what is what is that one thing that you need to study. I mean, you just don't pick up an upskill degree just because you have to do it. You have to identify whether the skill that I'm going to take is going to help me in what I'm currently doing, or if I'm to switch, if it's going to help me switch. That is the key point. You have to identify that first, and if you have got a very clear vision in your head, go ahead and do it. That's the only advice that I can give.
Thank you. Vineet?
No, I think he's made a very important statement here that you've got to be very clear about your priorities. Your vision's got to be very clear, and everyone knows, whether it's a parent or it's a student, we all know what our resources are. We've got to channelize our resources in the best possible manner that can probably harness the best out of our career, and that should be the clear approach. And why I'm saying that is because in the journey, from the time we think about or the thought gets incepted into our mind about going and studying abroad, there is a lot of factors that come into play, internal and external. Peer pressure, society, relatives that are living in that country, friends who've gone to study to that country. In all of these factors, within those first 2-3 months, if we're not really focused on our priorities, or if we don't know how to set our priorities right, there is a very high chance of being badly puzzled. So to avoid that, we've got to keep our vision absolutely clear. Of course, listen to everyone's suggestions, but then do at the end of the day what your clear analysis and your priorities tell you to do.
True. Dhruv?
Yeah, I think it's from our perspective, I think it's important that you are relevant to the changing times. I think that's the key. What is in demand today might not be in demand 5 years down the line, and also probably the right time to maybe look outside the box, move away from the traditional sort of options. You could make a legitimate career as an influencer today. That did not exist 5 years ago. So always not think about being an engineer. That's grown, that stream, AI, cybersecurity. The whole world is changing, and if you're relevant to the changing times, then you have nothing to worry.
True. You should have a far eyesight. Sakshi?
No, I think everything is covered. Just one last thing, whether you're going for a long-term course or you're going for a short-term course, it's very important to finalize your accommodation beforehand, because at times students go there without any planning and then they panic when they are not able to find the perfect or suitable accommodation as per their requirements.
That's true. We get a lot of queries like 1 week ahead, like I'm going to this particular country next week. Please help me out with this accommodation. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you all the attendees who have joined us. On this note, the crux of this whole webinar is, of course, this webinar will be available for you on our YouTube channel. You can go back and check it out if you've missed of any information, and we can pass on your questions to the representatives if you have any. On this note, that you have to be clear what you want. You do need to have a due diligence. You need to do a good research about it. The change is constant and the learning never stops. So on these points, we'd like to end our session today. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope the session was insightful for you guys. Looking forward to see you again in our next webinar. And you can check a lot of insightful session on our ULTV YouTube channel at 5 p.m. every Friday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vineet, Dhruv,
Thank
Trinidad.
you.
Thank you, Sakshi.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
that.
Great day.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.